Okay, so yeah, what you're seeing is that America's in desperation. Okay, and this is what we rejoice about. Okay, America's in desperation. So it's a very beautiful thing to see. Because Psalms 91 says, "Only with thy eyes shall thy see the reward of thy wicked." Right, right. So it's a very we're seeing the reward of the wicked out here. Okay, they're in desperation. They're having a draft. These leaders are being confounded. All right. So this is a very this is a very beautiful time that we're entering. It's very serious. A time of war. Okay, a time where you have to know what's going on, but also, okay, it's a time to rejoice because the hopeful elect is going to receive salvation. All right, and that's what we're going to focus on in this lesson. The hopeful elect is going to receive salvation, meaning be saved. Okay. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 1 on down. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labors. Right, okay? So, yeah, the hopeful elect, although, we're in slavery, although, our enemies, talk trash and all this, the hopeful elect, okay, the prophets are out here boldly, okay, teaching the word day in and day out, okay, non-stop. All right, so remember, nothing can be done against the truth, only for it. Okay, our enemies, yeah, they may not like us, they may not like the Lord, but they can't stop anything. Okay, they can't stop anything. They can't stop anything. Okay, they're in desperation mode. All right, so this is it's a very beautiful thing. One more time, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labors. When they see it, so this is how we know that the elites are. This is how we know that the elites are terrified. Okay, all right. Okay. So right here is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 2 on down. When they see it, who? The elites, okay? The international bankers. Okay, starting with the Rothschilds, Rockefellers on down. Okay? When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. What? The fact that the Israelites are waking back up. That the children of Israel are turning back to their nationality. Okay? Alright? They are petrified. Because the big, the true elites of this world, the true elites of this world, they know what's going on. Okay, they know who we are. All right, they know who the Lord is. All right, they don't worship the Lord; they worship Satan and Baphomet. But they know who the Lord is. Okay, they know who we are. So the fact that we're teaching this word, okay, that we're not out here just being just Mexicans and so-called blacks. Okay, we're out here returning to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. We're calling ourselves Israelites. Okay, it's a very this. Remember, our enemies are in fear. Yeah, they talk trash and say you guys are people of insignificant and people of no value. All right, this is Yahushai. Okay, Solomon. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. So this is why you hear about these elites. Where are they running to right now? They're going to their underground bunkers. Okay, why? Because the time of the judgment is at hand. Okay, we're in judgment time, baby. All right, remember that. It's a very serious time where you got to get right with the Lord. Okay, but Uh, you know, but remember, our enemies right here, the Lord said it, okay? Because who's Solomon in the reincarnation? Yahweh Shai. Okay, when they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. All right, so make no mistake, our enemies are petrified. All right, and remember, Elon Musk right now he's working on a big, microchipping factory. Hey, remember that, okay? This is something that is it's very very important, okay? Because you know that that microchip. Remember, our enemies, that's their cherry on top, okay, for the new world order on the left hand side. So but we're waiting for them to do that too, because the more the faster they bring that microchip, the faster they go down, and these Edomites go into slavery. Okay, all right. Remember that, okay? Because the angels are out here. All right, the angels are out here, and the Lord is here in the spirit. So you got to understand that, okay? All right. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 2. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. Okay, here's the point. And shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation. Talking about the hopeful elect, okay? So why are they going to be amazed? Okay, at the strangeness. So why is it going to be strange? This time, this Exodus. Okay, remember the first Exodus with Moses. Okay, when the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, saved the Israelites. Okay, from the clutches of Pharaoh. All right, remember that, okay? What happened there? Okay, the Lord plagued Egypt. All right, the Lord had put spiritual power on Moses. Okay, and he opened up the Red Sea, which is the Gulf of Suez. Okay, the Gulf of Suez is the point where we crossed, right there, the Red Sea. Okay, it's north. It's north of the Red Sea. It's still connected. At the very top of the Red Sea, it forks off. Okay, it splits. So it goes to the right, and then it goes to the left. So to the left, right there, that's the Gulf of Suez. It's north of the Red Sea. Okay, that's where we crossed. Us Hebrew Israelites, when the Lord helped us, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, He rescued us. That was the first Exodus. He plagued Egypt, and He rescued us from the clutches of Pharaoh. Okay? When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. Alright, so these elites are terrified. Why? Because they're seeing the spaceships, the so-called UFOs. Okay, they're showing themselves, worldwide. Okay, the prophets are all over the world. Okay, from the U.S. all the way to the U.K. Okay, you got the true prophets of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai pushing this word daily. Okay, every week, every day. Okay, the true prophets are pushing this word in truth and sincerity. Okay, you're getting, the spirit of truth is back on the earth. Okay, since Elijah has been back on the scene. Elijah, John the Baptist, if you can receive it, who was Abba Bivens, okay, which began teaching, the Lord's truth, the Lord's word, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, in 1969. Okay, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation. So that's the point here, okay? Because it's going to be strange. Why is it strange? Well, because nobody's expecting, the Lord to come back looking like a so-called black man with a white beard and a white afro. Okay? All right? No one is expecting the Israelites to get beamed up into a so-called spaceship. Okay? A chariot of Israel. So far beyond all they look for. Right, because it's so far, it's beyond all they look for. And they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit. shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision and a proverb of reproach. Right, because right there, okay, our enemies right now, they're like, hey, who, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, they're the children of Yahweh? Nah, no way. You know, anybody but them. You know, that's why they're thinking like, nah, these so-called Mexicans and blacks, you know, the so-called Native American Indians, they're like, nah, no way, like anybody but them. Yep, but it's us. Okay, and in this time that we're entering, it's the hopeful elect. Okay, it's the elect of the Israelites. So remember, just because you're an Israelite, don't mean that you're gonna make it out of here. Okay, 2/3 are going to will perish and be cut off. Okay, and this was he whom we had sometimes in derision, and a proverb and reproach. Okay, because right, you know, the fact that, you know, remember, for the Northern Kingdom, you got what, so-called Puerto Ricans, so-called Cubans, so-called Mexicans. These are proverbs and bywords. Okay, because this is not our nationality. Our nationality, okay, is we're Israelites. We're Hebrew Israelites. Okay, all right. Verse 4. We fools accounted his life madness, and his end to be without honor. Right, because everyone's gonna find out who the Lord's dealing with. Okay, because you can see with Donald Trump, America, they're in desperation mode. Okay, they're in desperation mode. All right, you know. Oh yeah, yep. This whole world is they're panicking. You know, panicking. This place is finished. It's through. You know, all we gotta do is repent to the Lord. You know, do the best that we can and just watch the show. Okay, remember, the Lord is going to Yahweh is going to take down our enemies. Okay, you gotta know that and understand that. Here we go. Verse 4. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 4. We fools accounted his life madness, and his end to be without honor. See, because this is what they think. Oh yeah, these dudes are crazy, man. What? Many guys are at on the corners, on the highways and byways. You know, like, hey, look at these guys with these garments on. These guys are, you know, you know the names that they call us. Okay, all right, but that's all right though. You know, because we know the name of the Lord, and we believe and trust in His truth. You see that? So that's all right, you know, because it doesn't. Romans chapter 3 verse 3. So what is from the not believe? Because just because people don't believe, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. Okay, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. You know, the fact of anything. Okay, you see World War III's here. Okay, people say, oh yeah, right, spaceships, yeah, right. Just turn on the news. Okay, go on your alternative news. You'll see that people are recording so-called UFOs worldwide, everywhere. Okay, the U.S. government can't do anything about it. All right, the angels who are our brothers, okay, that come from Yahweh, they're constantly on missions. Okay, they're constantly on missions. Okay, and they play with the U.S. military. Okay, you know, the U.S. military, they can't do anything. You know, so that right there is another fact. Just that, so it don't matter what our enemies say. They can laugh, not believe it. Okay, the chariots are right there. Okay, and they're coming. You know, Yahweh is coming with the army of angels. See? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 4. We fools accounted his life madness, and his end to be without honor. See that? Because I think, oh yeah, no, those guys they don't know what they're talking about, you know? You know, we got the money over here, you know, it's better over here, you know, we got the hookup, you know, my church is better. This is what they think. Verse 5. How is he numbered among the children of Yahweh? See? Because this is what they're thinking. Oh yeah, these so-called blacks, Mexicans, and Native Americans, they're just hating on so-called white people. There's no way that it's them. It is us. Okay? And we're not hating on so-called white people. We hate Edomites because they are the wicked. Okay? All right, and woe unto thee, General Yohana. Okay, because you're over here throwing the Lord underneath the bus. Like, oh, God don't, I don't hate white people. You're saying, and you said, God hates white people. Okay, remember, all right, so you're throwing the Lord underneath the bus. Okay, so you're pretty much saying, oh, the Lord's going this way, but I'm going that way. Okay, so that right there, Akim and Akwath is a fact right there, that these false Israelite groups, they don't follow the Lord, because he's not, whatever the Lord's with, wherever the Lord's going, that's where we're going. Okay, see, he's saying, well, I'm not doing it, but the Lord's doing it. The Lord hates Edomites, which is facts, and we are true servants of the Lord. If the Lord's saying that, hey, those people are wicked, that remember, to do good is to hate evil. Remember that. Okay? The Lord is upset with the wicked every day. Don't forget that. Okay? Don't forget that. So remember that. All right? So the Lord is upset with the wicked every day. So the fact that General Yohana said that, oh, well, I don't hate white people, God hates white people. Well, that's just a fact right there that shows us that that he's not with the Lord, that he's going another way, because he's saying, well, the Lord is going that way, but I'm going this way. See? So that remember, no, it's okay, thanks. All right, so just remember that, okay? Just remember that, because it's a very important thing, because right now the Lord is making our enemies telling on each other. Okay, they're literally telling on each other. All right, so Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and verse 4. We fools accounted his life madness, and his end to be without honor. Okay, how was he mongered? How? Listen up. All right, here we go. Yep. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 5. How was he numbered among the children of Yahweh? How was his lot among the saints? See, at the end of that word saints there is an exclamation mark. Okay, because remember the Edomites, the Moabites, Ammon, Elam, Ishmael. Okay, they can't be the saints, because this world got the wrong perception. Okay, they got the wrong idea that that word saint just means, oh yeah, that person's just so righteous and that person's a saint. No, saint, that's us. Okay, the Hebrew Israelites. The heathens cannot be saints. It don't matter if you say, oh well, hey man, like they don't do anything bad. Remember, these Edomites, the self-proclaimed white man, they have twisted up everything like a pretzel. Okay, they got everything upside down. Okay, remember, America, okay, is Babylon. What does Babylon mean? Babal means confusion. Okay, you got men trying to be women, women trying to be men. Okay, all right. Verse 6. Therefore have we erred from the way of truth. Right there. Okay? Bam. Very important. Okay? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 6. And then I'll stop it right there to do a continuation. All right? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 6. Therefore have we erred from the way of truth, because these churches do not have the truth. These false Israelite groups do not have the truth. Yeah, they got followers. Yes, they have. Yes, they have. They got money and stuff, but they don't have the truth. Remember, we have the name of the Lord. We got the truth. Okay, so that makes us public enemy one. We're public enemy number one to the New World Order and these elites. Okay, but they can't stop anything. They can hate, but they can't stop anything. Remember that, okay? Yeah, because we're superior to our enemies. We don't even got to get upset. For what? What can you do? The U.S. Army can't even do nothing. So remember, our enemies are a bunch of clowns. They could talk all they want, but what can they do? Can't do anything. All right? Yeah. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5 verse 6. Therefore have we erred from the way of truth. Right, because they err not knowing the scriptures. Okay? They don't know the way of truth. And the light of righteousness, okay? And the light of righteousness had not shined unto us. Because Yahweh is not supping with them. What did Yahweh say? I am the way, the truth, and the light. The Lord is the light. Okay, but the Lord, He's not dealing with these false Israelite groups. He's not dealing with these churches. Okay? And the Son of Righteousness rose not upon us. Alright, because they don't have it. Alright, so with that, that's it on this is it on part 2 on the elect will receive salvation. And Lord willing, I'll do a part 3 shortly. So with that, on your feet, soldier, keep praying and just stay in the spirit. Okay, remember, whatever you guys go through out there, the hopeful elect, hey man, just stay in the spirit. Okay, don't even worry about our enemies. Don't even worry about our enemies. Okay, stay in the spirit. Stay locked in. Shalom.